Hi there, welcome to Productive Introvert Community Podcast. I'm your host, Mariela, and I support introverted solopreneurs in developing healthy habits so that they have the energy to work on their goals without daily routines that feel forced or only last 2 weeks. Last week I told you about an experiment that I did to take a 2-month break from work and what I did to reduce my workload for that time. We also talked about the inner critic and how internal conflicts and negative thoughts can be an unexpected source of energy drain. For some introverts, it's one of the reasons why they feel tired all the time. If you haven't seen that episode, I'll leave the link in the description for you if you're interested to hear more about it. Today, I want to share with you 2 habits that were really helpful to me around energy management and time management when I took those 2 months off. And I'll also give you some pointers about what you could try out in your life, specifically when you're going through a bigger change in your life or a big shift in your daily routine. First, let's talk about these big changes. So sometimes big changes happen because of circumstances around us, right? Think of COVID and when we couldn't leave our homes. That was a very drastic change from how we were used to living, and it had a big influence on our day-to-day, as I'm sure it did for you too. Sometimes we may want to make a big change ourselves, right? So maybe you're thinking of changing careers or moving to another state or another country, or other things like changing your eating habits, starting a workout routine. Whether internally driven or externally driven, when things change, it always feels a little bit uncomfortable at first, right? We are conditioned to, on some level, dislike change because change is unknown. And what we know is safe because we know it. So intrinsically and biologically, we'll usually choose the option that feels the most safe and the most familiar to us. So whether externally driven or internally driven, when things change, it initially feels uncomfortable. When you're going through a change like that, there's a period of time when you feel a bit unhinged and things can feel really chaotic. I call this time period the transition disturbance. The transition disturbance is a period of time when you're transitioning from one rhythm to another rhythm. We experience this all the time, sometimes without realizing it. It's most notable for big changes. Things like COVID, starting a new job, changing your eating habits, or starting a new business. Initially, you feel lost and basically like you suck at everything, right? And then after a while, you kind of start getting it and it starts feeling normal, your new normal. We also go through this on a smaller scale. Examples that come to mind for me are over a weekend, especially when you have a different rhythm during the week than during the weekend. Maybe you're getting up early for your job during the week, and on the weekend, maybe you sleep in, have a late breakfast, maybe you go to bed later. When Monday comes around, there is this hump, and you need to go back to the other rhythm. So this is an example of the transition disturbance on a smaller scale. Okay, but what does this have to do with taking a 2-month break? Someone left me a comment on my last video saying that she's interested to take 2 months off each year herself. So here are some things that could be helpful to you if you're thinking of how to approach this. The first thing is to be aware of the transition disturbance. It can be tough getting through these transitions and establishing a new rhythm. And I like to say that the magic is in the transition, because the way that we move through the transition disturbance can be the reason why we feel good about a change or why we hate it. But here's the good news. The transition disturbance is a finite period of time. It doesn't last forever. Eventually, you get the hang of the new rhythm. How long the transition disturbance lasts depends on your personality and the personalities of the people involved, for example, in your family or your team, and the exact transition that you're going through. On average, for big things like taking a 2-month break, it can be around 2 to 3 weeks. One thing that could be helpful if you're thinking about taking a 2-month break off yourself is to give yourself permission to treat the transition disturbance differently in terms of time and energy management than you would approach that in other times, especially when you're doing it for the first time, the first couple of times that you're kind of practicing with it. Realize that the way things are going during the transition disturbance is not representative of how things will be later on, okay? So even if things shift all over the place during this time, it's okay. See the transition as a time period when you're gathering information, so that you can actually figure out what the new situation needs. This is especially true for introverts who are natural observers. And a lot of introverts work best when they have some time to gather information and then have some space to reflect on it. This gives them space to formulate their ideas and to then come up with a plan. It's really helpful to treat this as a time to observe and to experiment. Observing and treating things like an experiment, it's also a great way to calm down the inner critic, what we talked about last time. Remember that you only do something for the first time once. So anytime you go through a transition disturbance, you learn what to keep an eye on and what you need in terms of time and energy management to move through a similar transition more easily the next time. Helpful habits to go through the transition disturbance more easily. First of all, how inconvenient the transition is to you not only depends on the type of change that you're going through, it also depends on your personality and on your habit style. When people get on an exploration call with me, the first thing I always do is to reveal their habit style. Some people really do find calm in a regular routine, and big changes can feel really, really stressful, especially when they're unexpected or when they're very sudden. But other people actually feel stifled by too much structure. And for them, sudden changes may not feel that stressful. So depending on your habit style, a regular routine may work better for you, or you may actually work better when you switch things up regularly. Here are two examples of habits that were really helpful to me around energy management and time management during my 2-month break. The first habit is cooking home-cooked meals. In our family, food is our anchor. We can have like the worst day ever and come home to a warm meal and feel 1,000% better. Even if our toddler is all over the place and refuses to eat what I've cooked, after we get through all that and our tummies are full, things are just better. So I learned even before we had our child that if the food was taken care of, we are taken care of. And full honesty, I do not like cooking. I actually actively dislike cooking. And because of that, I'm also constantly looking for time cheats and habits that help me to make it quicker and easier and still put healthy meals on the table. Because I know that this is something that anchors my family and it gives us so much benefits, both in terms of nutrition and peace of mind. I don't mind spending that effort in taking care of the area of our family. So during my 2-month break, I was spending a lot of the day together with our son, and I didn't have a lot of time to prepare meals. So one habit that made this easier was to do most of my dinner prep earlier in the day. So either around breakfast or around lunchtime. So times that I was already in the kitchen, I sometimes cooked entire dinners during those times. And all that was left to do was warm up the meal when it came time for dinner. Especially when we had an outing planned and we were out a whole day and we'd come back home hungry, I knew that a meal was ready that I could just warm up and I could put this out of my head and didn't have to deal with hangry and know that we could just eat as soon as we got home. So food is an area very specific to my family that anchors our household. And this may not be the same for you. But I bet that there is an area of your life that when that's taken care of, it gives you a lot of peace of mind. And when it's not taken care of, you have that nagging feeling in the back of your mind, oh, I need to take care of this thing. For some people, it's having a clean or organized home. And for others, it's knowing that their finances are in order. It could be anything. Whatever the area is for you, Develop 1 or 2 key habits in that specific area, and it will give you a lot of peace of mind in your day. The second habit that helped me, especially around energy management, is that the first 10 minutes of my day were just for me. I noticed that when I hit the floor running in the morning, I feel the kind of tired that no amount of sleep can fix. And I also become irritable and annoyed very quickly. So this one really became a non-negotiable habit for me, and it made a huge, huge difference. Think of it as a super short morning routine. My super short morning routine right now is a few light stretches, either yoga or Feldenkrais movement awareness exercises. And I do that for 10 minutes with a guided meditation playing in the background. I like to use Headspace for that. So I've tried a lot of different things over the years, and I'm talking ranging from a full hour of yoga to running to the train with a sandwich between my teeth, pretty much the full spectrum of morning routines and morning non-routines. For this time in my life, between raising my family and running an online business, I found that this 10-minute morning routine checks all the boxes for me. 1, it's short, just 10 minutes. If you're struggling to find a morning routine or a pre-work ritual or something like that, start with 10 minutes. Anyone can find 10 minutes in their day, and you can too. 2, it has a grounding feeling, similar to what we just talked about around that key area of your life, and ours is food. 3, it's something that I can do with my son. So this is important to me because he's usually there with me in the morning, and I needed something that I could do every day and not feel stressed or even resentful that he was there or that I couldn't do it with him there and then skip it. So this needed to be something that was super easy to do even with him physically, like literally sitting on top of me sometimes, like I'm not even gonna lie. And the 4th thing is I can do it anywhere. No special equipment needed. Just my phone to play the guided meditation in the background. So very easy. What are some pointers for you that you might try? I hope that these examples gave you a little bit of an idea. In terms of morning routines or startup rituals, it really doesn't matter what you actually do. Okay, so don't get bogged down by finding the perfect routine. It's difficult to know if something is a fit until you try it. And more than that, life will shift, and so will your needs. So just start somewhere, and over time, you'll learn what works for you and what doesn't. And you can pull from that information to fit any circumstances and any big changes, both externally and internally driven. The main idea is, if you're deciding which healthy habits to develop, is to look for things that give you a feeling of peace of mind and a feeling of ease. If it feels hard to do, chances are that you just won't do it. And worse, you might beat yourself up for not doing it. So ease is an important factor. If you want help to develop healthy habits that are right for you, then knowing your habit style can be helpful. Right now, I'm at 80% capacity with private coaching clients for the rest of the year, but I'm still offering free habit style reveals. If that's interesting to you, use the link in the description to book a free call with me, and I'll help you reveal your habit style, and you'll walk away with a 1-page PDF about your personal habit building process so that you can get started with your healthy habits right now. Thank you for hanging out with me today and for giving me your attention. Let's talk again next week. Thank you for listening to the Productive Introvert Community Podcast. If you're an introverted entrepreneur and you're ready to thrive in your own way, then connect with me on thefrankermessage.com/contact.